Controversy is the basis of change and hopefully improvement. Lack of controversy usually signifies the presence of complacency, an authoritarian limitation on a viewpoint expression, or an absence of realistic alternatives to existing circumstances. An articulate presentation of a point of view on a controversial issue breathes new life into the issue. A general model for the examination of positions on educational issues includes the following dimensions: statement of the problem, identification of the issue, overview, assumptions, arguments for, arguments against, analysis of the validity of the arguments, values emphasized or compromised, a personal position, and suggestions for solving the problem. The first part of the framework is the statement of the problem. The problem is a discrepancy between what is and what should be, what is real versus what is the ideal. Think in terms of a need and then think of the problem that surrounds it. For example, schools need technology in the classroom. Channel 1 is a commercial venture which donates televisions and satellite equipment to schools in exchange for viewing a 10-minute program each day in the classroom. Some school districts quickly adopt it while others vehemently oppose it. So what is the problem in this scenario? The issue should be stated as one-sentence question. The way it is worded has an effect on how people respond to it. Characteristics of an issue include: there must be two sides to it, it must be publicly debated, it must affect policy, it must be perceived as important by a critical mass, it must be current, and there must be a possibility for resolution to exist. Let's look at an example. What is the issue that stems from the problem of drugs? AIDS, crime, teenage pregnancy, these are not issues, these are societal problems. Issues stemming from the problem of drugs include: should drugs be legalized? Should we have drug education in school? Should alcohol and cigarettes be classified as illegal drugs? Should there be drug testing in schools? Should the government increase the penalties for drug use? Should drug users be given clean needles? Notice that in all the issues previously mentioned, the issue is stated in the form of a question and begins with the word should. In the overview, you can provide a brief history of the background of the problem and the issue surrounding it, operational definitions so that we can all understand each other, a description of the discrepancy between what is and what should be, and an explanation of the need and of the problem that surrounds it. Assumptions guide the direction of the paper. The stated or implied assumptions may be derived from a philosophical or religious orientation, from scientific theory, from social or personal values, or from accumulated experience. Acceptance by the reader of the author's assumptions opens a way for a receptive attitude regarding the specific viewpoint expressed and its implications for action. Let's look at an example. Comparisons of traditional with distance education are usually premised on the unspoken assumption that traditional education is the ideal mode of educational delivery, and thus can serve as the gold standard against which all other forms of alternative education should be measured. Is that a valid assumption? Arguments for and against may be based on logic, common experience, research, information and data, legal precedents, the Constitution, case law, statutory law, or emotional appeals. In the analysis of the validity of the argument, you select one side of an argument and defend it. You don't have an obligation to report the other side. Examine the elements of your arguments, the basic assumptions, viewpoint statements, supporting evidence, conclusions, and then decide if they hold up or not. The careful listener may accept or reject individual elements of the total position. One might see reasonableness in a viewpoint and its justification, but be unable to accept the assumptions on which it is based. Or one might accept the flow of argument based on the evidence but find illogic or impracticality in the stated conclusions and suggestions for action. In every educational issue, there are values compromised and values emphasized. Values emphasized are those that add value to the argument and which we strive to maintain and support. Values compromised are those values or beliefs that are sacrificed at the expense of the values that are emphasized. It is possible to address any educational issue by looking at four main values: excellence, equity, efficiency, and liberty. Although we may strive to maintain all four values, in most instances it is necessary to sacrifice one or more for the other. For example, in order to achieve excellence, efficiency may be compromised, and in order to achieve equity, liberty may be compromised. In the personal position, provide a rationale for what you believe. Begin by stating, "I am for or against a particular position," and then explain why. Go back to the arguments and cite evidence that support your position. State any philosophical or religious beliefs, social or personal values, or experiences which influence your position. The final section is the suggestions for solving the problem. Controversy requires action, including suggestions from the originator of the position for solving the problem. In order for a discussion of an issue to be meaningful, a possibility for resolution must exist. Keep in mind that one might accept your arguments but find illogic or impracticality in your suggestions. Offer only suggestions that make sense and are realistically possible. This concludes the overview of the framework. If you follow the directions I have provided for you and examine the sample documents, you should have no difficulty developing your projects. As always, if you have any questions or need further clarification, don't hesitate to contact me. Good luck.